So here I am with Jalen Lindeman, Vice President of Communications. Communications is made up of three main areas. Can you tell us a little bit about those, Jalen?
So our team is comprised of three main areas. All have an overlying structure of data and communications to credit union members and to our network. So the first area, or the largest area that we have, is our ongoing outreach, which is like train schedules for regular or consistent communications. Second, we have campaigns, which is like the promotional or ad hoc communications you need to send out to members, and they can be multi-channel. And then the third is the newest area that we've added this year, which is digital. So we're stepping into a digital footprint, getting into social media marketing, and a lot more to come with that.
Okay, let's start with ongoing communications then, since you started there yourself. What have they done this last year? I'm going to separate it from COVID and pre-COVID. What have they done this last year to enhance the member experience?
So on the ongoing communication side, we have developed quite a few different things. So we've taken time to really step back and look at our current products and services and see how we can improve those for the member experience. So with that, a lot of the behind the scenes that our credit unions and your members don't see is how we set up our automations to run. Our automation, so instead of a member receiving an email or a communication at like 2 a.m. when it's their birthday, maybe they'd enjoy that, maybe not, but we've set it up so that no matter what credit union it is, our communications don't start sending until 7 a.m. in the correct time zone for that credit union.
So small tweaks on the member experience that you guys have been working on.
Correct, yep.
Cool. So last year you guys rolled out member journeys. What is the difference between member reach and member journeys?
So member reach is what I like to refer to as our all-encompassing service. So outside of an automated library of emails, you also get tiny things like online banking community paragraphs, or e-info, which is an electronic statement stuffer. On a monthly basis, you can customize those. Outside of that, for journeys specifically, it's more tailored to that member's experience. So we're driving the one-on-one communications with that member, leveraging the data for that individual membership. So let's say you have two members who open their account on the same day. Member A has not logged into online banking within the first 3 days, so they get a communication that is for how to log in general. Member B has already logged in, so instead of the instructions for logging in, you send them a communication for remote deposit capture or your mobile app or something along those lines. So it's the same sort of journey or same sort of map, but just different content within each communication.
Very customized to the member based on where they're at, the relationship they have with the credit union.
For member journeys this next year, we are going to build up our journey library. So with that, it's going to have multiple like triggers for the communication side, different journey topics to build off of. Currently, we have new member onboarding, which has been a hit since November. So we're looking at like new loan onboarding, new mortgage onboarding, if your loan is reaching payoff, or you know that members pay off their loans at a certain amount of time, within a certain amount of time ahead of time. We're going to build off of that and have those personalized communications go out.
And I'm sure there's hundreds and thousands that we could think of to do a member journey off of, because it's a trigger to a continuous conversation you want to have with a member. Awesome. So last year at Leadership, I challenged credit unions to talk to their members more channels, more conversations. What have you guys done, or what's in the books for 2020, 2021 to do that again?
Yeah, so to do that again, that's really our structure every year, is to have more conversations and have more avenues in which the credit union can not only speak to their member, but also get the member feedback. So for us, this over the past year and moving forward, we always try to add at least 5 messages to our member reach library. Growing our journey triggers will help with that as well. And then we'll develop more of our campaign side of things. And the biggest, I think, accomplishment we can say within the past 6 months has been our digital marketing launch of social media management.
Has that been, a lot of people have been joining the team and doing the social media management with you guys?
Yeah, so we just rolled it out in May of 2020, and with that we had 3 initial credit unions come out, had about at least 10 with conversations or possible leads, and I believe we have 6 contracts returned as of today. We just got one.
Why did you guys decide to go into social media management, and why did you select the social media platform that credit unions have? And I shouldn't just call it social media management, because credit unions can use the platform on their own to manage their social accounts.
Right, so we wanted to make sure that we had like an all-encompassing offer. So whether we were doing it for credit unions or they were doing it themselves, we wanted to be able to provide services for both of them. So making sure they have the tools, the same tools that we utilize to speak with their members. And then 2, we waited to jump on the social media train for so long, even though it was a request from our clients, because we didn't have the necessary tools, or we weren't ready for the tools as of yet. And we developed a team, spent months researching, dedicating our time to launch this social media platform.
I think one of the coolest things that I've seen on it is the social listening side of it, where you can see what members are saying about your credit union or about the credit union industry or just the area by just tagging something in there.
Yeah, so the social listening is a really cool feature because you can set up custom tags, or you can in general monitor for posts that have the words credit union in it. So we've done like you guys have probably seen those word clouds before. Those word clouds for anything that has been tagged with the word credit union in it. We've seen like online banking as a top hit for that, or lately during the current times, it's been stimulus checks and pandemic and different things like that. So it's a nice indication as to what people are relating to credit unions lately.
And then I always like the interesting fact along with the action. So there are things that we're seeing credit unions, or that we would encourage credit unions to do if they're starting to see their name associated with something, or how can social listening help those credit unions?
So social listening can help. One of the experiences we've seen over the past month or 2 has been that one member, or maybe it was a non-member, I'm not quite sure, but they went into a credit union and did a transaction that went poorly for them. With that, they spelt the credit union name wrong. Our social listening allowed us to identify the credit union specifically and inform them that they had a possible complaint out there. And then they were able to take action on that from the social listening tool.
So it's proactively reaching out to disgruntled or happy people, talking about us on another platform, on a communications platform that is very heavy, we all use very heavily these days.
Right. And I think it's 1 in 3 Americans are on social media often, every day. You guys probably see it as you're, hopefully not driving, but as you are commuting, you'll see people out with their cell phones out all the time. So it's safe to assume that they could be using a social media platform. And with this, as technology changes and our digital kind of world changes, we want to meet members where they're at. We want to make sure we're listening to them and kind of putting their actions first, so that we know how to communicate in a way that they're going to receive it.
I'm glad you also mentioned that we have thought about doing social media, using social media for our credit unions for a long time, but we put it off for so long. And we've had conversations about how social media was just used in all the wrong ways. And it was really credit unions or people trying to figure out how to use it. So we just weren't ready to jump into that pool and get on the bandwagon of social media until we really knew how we could take action after we saw the conversation happening, or how we could drive leads out of there, like using our Ollie platform as well.
Yeah, and I think with that, our digital marketing expert, Megan, is a great example of someone who can drive that conversation, and she'll talk more about that as well.
Okay, let's jump over to the campaign side of things for your department. What has that looked like through the lens of COVID?
So with campaigns, I think that's one of our heavily utilized services overall, because it allows more free will than an automation would. However, during the pandemic, what we have seen is our campaigns have picked up. So on a monthly basis, we have about 45 to 50 campaigns launched every single month. During COVID, we were experiencing over 100 campaigns. I think the first month it was like 102, the second month was 112, and then now we're just dwindling down a little bit. During the pandemic, we saw a pause on kind of onboarding our regular services or recurring communications. With that pause, credit unions were more focused on informing their members of what changes are taking place, how they can access the credit union. And now that we're kind of, I don't want to say we're at the tail end because none of us really know what's coming next. But now that we're kind of slowing down on that side of the pandemic, we're seeing credit unions re-engage their marketing plans, and not that they are specifically selling, but they're starting to sell more than they were in the past 3 months.
And are you seeing some of them make adjustments to those marketing plans based on people losing their jobs, or, you know, trends that they're starting to see in the data? Yeah. Different conversations.
Yeah, definitely. So with that, we have seen a lot of credit unions offer, like, instead of selling loans, they are offering, or they want to run campaigns on skipping their loan payments, skipping member loan payments, and getting really targeted in if people have experienced a delay or a downshift in their direct deposit amounts or payments coming in, if they've had a delinquency in the past month, credit unions are kind of proactively looking at those audiences and trying to encourage their members or educate their members that they are still here and they're doing whatever they can to help get them through this time.
What is one of the most unique or the funnest campaigns that you've seen lately?
For me, I'm biased. So I saw a credit union offer a 1% off loan refinance, but they used dog creative instead of people.
Animals always help.
Yeah, animals always help, at least for me. Outside of that, it's always tough to, like, find one of my favorite campaigns because each campaign is unique, each offer is unique. One of the more beneficial ones that I've seen run or is in the process of running is a credit union also incorporated a postcard. It was a pretty large postcard, and it basically was a member saying, I need to do this. How do I do it virtually instead of in the branch? Mm-hmm. So it was like a here's my issue, what's the solution in the new world?
And did they target then people who have been not using self-services?
So they targeted a demographic that, correct, doesn't use self-services and are above a certain age criteria, because they have found that their membership, if they're over 60, they are more apt to come into the branch often or try and drive through or anything like that.
Cool. And then you guys have done a lot of credit limit increase campaigns, especially gearing up lately. How's that going? Are you guys getting a lot of people using it still?
Yeah, our credit limit increase, we often refer to it as CLIP. So if you hear that buzz around, that's Credit Limit Increase Program. And what we do is...
we always have the acronyms.
Always with the acronyms. So with the Credit Limit Increase Program, what we've seen is, I believe we have 2 or 3 that we've launched recently. They've been kind of smaller audiences, and it's been for people who either haven't used their credit card in a while or have some certain they only have 10% of their available limit or disbursement limit available for them to utilize.
How does this year compare to previous years that we've seen?
So this year being unique with the pandemic in mind is we see a lot of credit unions during this time or quarter two in a calendar year. We see credit unions start to really sell their auto loans, RV loans, boat loans, and that has taken a back seat. So most of the focus has been self-services or just communicating with a member and educating them
About what the credit union has to offer that's actually free for them. Yeah. So the self-services, okay.
Either free for them or any relief options that they have too. Okay. So with the relief plans as well, they have like forgiven some of the normal fees that they charge, and they're educating members on what fees are waived during this time versus what they aren't, and what the rollback plan will look like now that we're kind of seeing stay-at-home orders be lifted.
So communicating lobby hours and how that will look from the member's perspective now that the lobby is open back up.
Right, and like making sure you keep the social distancing, of course. So some credit unions are limiting only 2 people in the lobby at a time. So you might have to sit in your car in the parking lot or make appointments online, different things like that.
Okay. All right, we've talked about what's happened this last year before COVID, during COVID, and what are some cool things that your team is working on after COVID or now?
The focus now is building up our campaign library. So before we have a great library of emails to choose from and generic content set already. But now that we're getting into like the social media management and having digital platforms ready, we are growing our generic library of material so that people will have their like Facebook banners or website banners that go with the same email campaign that we're running for them.
So crossing channels.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So adding more channels or more content for channels as well.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about Map and Mop. You guys doing anything for that?
What we are focused on is researching how we can help credit unions kind of close the gap between the processes that they do. So if a member opens their account online or fails the opening process, then can Extend engage in that area and help kind of take the workload off of the credit union shoulders with some sort of automation, some sort of campaign we can run. And then outside of that, it also flows into our new member onboarding plan, so our journey that we have.
We've had a conversation about this and looked at the non-member, the pre-member that you're talking about with Map and Mop, and then the member. So we've kind of broken it down in those sections, and I think that helps to follow along and understand how you would communicate with them, mainly how you would, where you would be able to pull the data from and why you would have the conversation with them. I'm excited about the Map and Mop thing. So we've talked about digital marketing. I'm gonna hop back into it. What can we expect after social media?
So after social media, our biggest focus is going to be understanding more of the advertising part of digital marketing. So Google Ads, search engine optimization, SEO, paid advertisements for the social platforms and how they differ from simply posting versus actually advertising. Mm-hmm. Outside of that, what we're hoping to dive into is kind of expanding the credit union's brand, expanding Extend's brand into more of a public sense and driving those non-members or those near members who are looking for services, or maybe they don't know much about credit unions, and really speaking their language, meeting them where they're at in their life stage or just in general where they're at physically on their phone.
Mm-hmm. So much of what your team does is about data. Can you tell me a little bit about how you've worked with our Extend and the CUasterisk.com data analytics team to help expand on our services?
Yeah, so our relationship with data analytics has been very helpful. So it's allowed us to review our services and really improve them from a data standpoint and how we utilize the data. It's allowed data analytics, marketing is hard to justify or hard to quantify the work that you're doing without having the data to back it up. And I think that's true with just about any product or service. With that, what we have seen, or where we want to take the data, is to allow us to help credit unions plan for more of a marketing and how to justify that to their board or to their bosses, and expand their marketing budget for the future. What we're doing is, instead of tracking on an individual email or over the next couple of years, instead of tracking each member based off of their email activity, we want to create some sort of unique ID that can be shared across platforms. That isn't specific to their account base, their name, like the personal information, so we're not risking any data share or data breach, because it is a digital focus. We're keeping that data safe, but also diving directly into that individual's actions from whatever we can find.
It's been really interesting to watch the evolution of marketers over the past, you and I have worked together for 7 years, but along the way, I remember our first roundtable when we had marketers come in and they didn't even know how to sign in to CU-Base, so any of them who showed up for our first roundtable. Now you have marketers who are pulling data, they understand data, they maybe have a data team built for them to take action off of. So it's been fun to not only try to push the fray with everybody, but to start to see the market really respond to it. And I would say that marketers for a long time haven't gotten the respect that they, at times, most deserve, maybe not all. But now I think a marketing person maybe even shouldn't even be called a marketing person anymore. It's more of a communicator, a data communicator.
Definitely. One of the things that I have noticed, and the team has noticed as well, is like marketing, sales and marketing typically puts a bad taste in people's mouths, or like you can just see them kind of cringe a little bit when you say sales or marketing. So we kind of renamed the team as communications, because we want to be the positive force for credit unions to be able to still communicate and market to their members, still continue their sales, but have more of a strategic plan and a data-focused plan.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. So, what would you leave us with?
I'd like to leave us with, our team has focused on and holding strongly to being catalysts of communication strategies. So with that, we want to carry credit unions with us, encourage them to learn more, do more, and see how we can help them along the way, whether it's offering more education opportunities, being a sounding board for them. We want credit unions to join us in the conversation about marketing and about data, so that we can improve not only our services, but also the experience for our clients and their members.
And how can they do that? How can they, do we have some type of a roundtable, Jalen?
So the team hosts 2 roundtables a year. From the most recent one, we had to do it virtually.
You actually had really great participation, right?
We did. So typically when we hold the roundtables, we have about 12 to 15 people come, whether it be they're flying from California to our home base in Michigan. We have 12 people roughly come into the office, where the virtual attendance, we had over 30 registrants, and I think at least 27 of them signed in. So that was fun. I, much like anyone, don't really enjoy public speaking or like hosting that. So with the virtual experience, just during these times, it's of course easier to have a roundtable where you can see people's reactions and kind of break off into those smaller groups, which we could do with technology, but it was nice for the credit unions to hear what Extend was seeing and also be able to provide their feedback either individually, or we could open the floor up for them to speak virtually.
And then you have the sales and marketing group, the email distribution group, right? You get a lot of activity on that.
So with our email distribution group, we have over 175 credit union marketers or representatives at the credit union who wanted to engage and be a sounding board for each other. So we have credit unions. Most recently, I think the conversation has been about dress code and if they're coming back to work allowing jeans, or if they're going like what their policies are around that. So you get anything from dress code to what do you guys see coming up, or I'm trying to see
I saw one on lobbies opening recently.
yeah. So what are your lobby plans? It's really so that credit unions can understand what the network is doing and kind of either find inspiration or speak with each other about what struggles they're facing and find a solution there.
And if we have beta or free things that we give away quite often, we usually throw it out to that group first. So it's nice to be a part of that group.
Right.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and I look forward to this next year.
Yep. Thanks.